Okay, what does submission to the government look like for the Christian? Why should I pay taxes to Caesar if Caesar is killing babies? Does a Christian submit to the president or the Constitution? All right, let's open the Bibles for the first time here. 1 Peter chapter 2. This is a great question, by the way. Great question. And I think it gets at the really the heart of the matter in a lot of ways. 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 13. Be subject to the Lord's sake to every human institution, whether it be to the emperor as supreme or to governors as sent by him to punish those who do evil and praise those who do good. For this is the will of God, that by doing good you should put to silence the ignorance of foolish people. The other one, of course, is Romans 13. Verse 1, which says, let every person be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and those that exist have been instituted by God. Therefore, whoever resists the authorities resists what God has appointed, and will resist. Those who resist will incur judgment. Okay, it is crucial for us to see and to think about who's the government in charge when he says these words. If when Jesus said these words, if when Peter said those words, the government was a good Christian government, that would be one thing. But it's not the government that's in power. Right? The government that's in power is Caesar, Nero, Tiberius, depending on when it was written. There's Roman emperors, and Rome was a people. I love how the question's worded. Why should I pay taxes to Caesar if he's killing babies? The basic answer is because Jesus said to. Right? To give to Caesar what is Caesar's is a reference to taxes. There's no reason to think that we should take that in the opposite way that he meant it. Give to Caesar what is Caesar's, when talking about taxes in particular, was the question. And Caesar was was leaving babies out on the trash pile. What's the word for that? Exposing them. He was exposing the babies, not Caesar himself, but Rome would take the babies on one of the babies and expose them on the trash piles, or at least allow them to be placed in the trash piles to be devoured by wolves or killed by the cold. And Rome didn't do anything about it. So that was the people that they were asking Jesus, what do we do with this money? And it was a very controversial topic like it is today, and Jesus said, give to Caesar what is Caesar's. The very interesting question is the last part of the question, which says, does a Christian submit to the president or the Constitution? Meaning, what is the ultimate authority in our country? I think there's some discussion to be had there. But both of the passages we looked at are talking about personal entities. So the governing authorities, it's never, what we have in Romans 13 and 1 Peter is a reference to the people that are doing the governing, not necessarily the paperwork behind the government. So I think it would be difficult for me to take Romans 13 or 1 Peter and stretch it to mean something beyond the people that are governing. Because that's the ones who are the direct subjects that he's talking about, those that are governing. Whether they're applying their bylaws correctly or not, it doesn't seem to be in view, but just the ones that are governing. Daniel 4:17 says, to the end that we live, to the end that the living may know that the Most High rules the kingdom of men. Here's a great line which maybe applies today in America better than ever. And gives it, the kingdom of men, to whom he will, and sets over it the lowliest of men. Very often you'll find your rulers to fit that category, the lowliest of men. But that doesn't mean that God didn't put them there. Okay, so government is good, even though we hate a lot of it. I mean, we don't want a country without courts, or without cops, or without due process. Government is a good thing. Can be used wrongly sometimes, but we should obey the government up until the point that it compromises our ability to obey our highest government. We should obey as far as we can. The Christian is not the political rebel throughout history, certainly not in the biblical times, and they could have been.